Las Vegas, September 7th, 1996. A city built on illusion, on spectacle, on risk. But that night, something else was unfolding beneath the lights. He was 25 years old, a poet, a provocateur, a voice for millions. To some, he was a revolutionary. To others, a dangerous symbol of defiance. But what if everything we thought we knew about his final hours was incomplete? At approximately 11:15 p.m., a white Cadillac pulled alongside a black BMW. Seconds later, gunfire. 4 shots struck Tupac Shakur. 6 days later, he was gone. But nearly 3 decades on, we are still asking the same question. Was it gang retaliation? A calculated hit? Or something far more complex, hidden behind loyalty, fear, and power? Because behind the headlines, there were witnesses who stayed silent, allegations that were never fully tested, and names that continue to surface even now. Some secrets refuse to stay buried. Before the violence, before the headlines, there was Lassane Parish Crooks, later renamed Tupac Amaru Shakur, a name drawn from revolution, resistance, history. From an early age, Tupac Shakur was surrounded by activism. His mother, Afeni Shakur, was a member of the Black Panther Party. His upbringing shaped his worldview. He spoke about poverty, inequality, survival. But fame has a way of amplifying everything. By the mid-1990s, he had become one of the most influential voices in hip-hop. But with influence came enemies. What began as artistic competition quickly escalated into something far more dangerous: the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. On one side, the notorious B.I.G. On the other, Tupac Shakur. Behind them, powerful figures like Sean Combs and Suge Knight. But was it really just music? Or had the lines between art and organized violence already blurred? At Death Row Records, tensions were rising. Allegations would later surface, suggesting betrayal, paranoia, and internal conflict. In one account, Suge Knight claimed that even close allies, including Snoop Dogg, had fallen under suspicion. Trust was becoming a rare commodity. September 7, 1996. Earlier that evening, a confrontation. In the MGM Grand, Tupac Shakur and members of his entourage assaulted a man. That man was Orlando Anderson. At the time, it may have seemed like just another altercation. But what if that moment set everything in motion? Later that night, Suge Knight was driving. Tupac sat in the passenger seat. They were heading to a nightclub. They never made it. A white Cadillac pulled alongside them. Inside, 4 men. Among the names later identified, Dwayne Davis and his nephew, Orlando Anderson. Shots were fired. And then, the car disappeared into the night. 4 bullets, 2 to the chest, 1 to the arm, 1 to the thigh. The damage was catastrophic. At the University Medical Center, doctors fought to save him. His right lung was removed. He was placed on life support. For 6 days, the world waited. Fans gathered. Rumors spread. Hope lingered. But inside that hospital room, decisions were being made. His mother, Afeni Shakur, faced the unthinkable. And on September 13, 1996, Tupac Shakur was pronounced dead. Cause of death? Respiratory failure and cardiopulmonary arrest. He was 25. In the hours following the shooting, there was a surge of activity. Dozens were questioned, leads were pursued, but something was missing: cooperation. Witnesses refused to speak. Information was fragmented, and the case began to stall. For years, the investigation lingered without resolution. Critics would later question whether mistakes were made. Were key suspects overlooked? Were opportunities missed? or was silence deliberately maintained? Over time, certain names kept resurfacing. Duane Davis, also known as Keefe D. In interviews, and later in a memoir, he admitted being in the car that night. He described himself as the on-site commander and claimed the shots were fired by his nephew, Orlando Anderson. But for years, no charges were filed. Why? It wasn't until 2023, nearly 3 decades later, that Duane Davis was formally charged with murder. He pleaded not guilty. A breakthrough, or simply the beginning of another chapter? In the absence of clear answers, theories began to multiply. Some believed it was retaliation, the so-called Baby Lane theory, revenge for the earlier assault on Orlando Anderson. Others looked higher. Allegations, never proven, suggested involvement from powerful figures, including Sean Combs, claims he has consistently denied. And then there were whispers about Suge Knight. Was he the intended target, or something else entirely? Over the years, his statements have shifted, at times claiming knowledge of the shooter, at others refusing to testify. And now, from prison, he promises to reveal his truth. But what does that mean in a case already filled with contradictions? For some, the uncertainty itself became part of the story, a belief that Tupac Shakur never died. The Machiavelli theory, inspired by his final album, released just weeks after his death, a theory that suggests he staged his own disappearance. There is no credible evidence to support this, but the persistence of the belief says something deeper, about grief, about myth, about the need for unresolved stories to find meaning. The damage extended far beyond one life. Careers were shaped and, in some cases, destroyed. Reputations questioned. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry intensified. And just 6 months later, the notorious B.I.G. would also be killed. 2 icons gone. 2 cases unsolved for decades. Today, the intersection at Flamingo and Koval looks ordinary. Cars pass, people move on. But beneath the surface, the questions remain. Was justice delayed or denied? Did those who knew the truth choose silence? And how many pieces of the story are still missing? The indictment of Duane Davis may bring answers, or it may raise even more questions. Because in a case like this, truth is rarely simple. I will return and be millions. A prophecy or a metaphor? In the end, Tupac Shakur became more than a man. He became a symbol of resistance, of contradiction, of a generation searching for its voice. Some secrets die with their keepers, others refuse to stay buried.